freedom-based mindset is an abundance mindset. Discipline offers the opportunity to set the boundaries, set the framework, set the structure to allow freedom to exist within those boundaries. If you analyze any successful, long-term, successful, sustainable business, they almost always, if not always, have a really, really well-defined system and structures, guiding principles that create the discipline and also provide the abundance mindset and the freedom to operate within those boundaries. And those are the companies that operate the most effectively. Hey everyone, welcome to the Fearless Family Business Show, where it is our goal to help you strengthen the love, the legacy, and the lifestyle that you want to get from your family business. My name's Adam Hill, and I am your host, and today I want to talk about freedom. That's right, let's all channel our inner brave hearts. Let's paint our faces and run down the Scottish countryside in kilts. Okay, let's not do any of those things. But I do want to talk about freedom today, but I want to talk about it in the context of family businesses. And this was something that's been on my mind a lot lately about what freedom means, especially in the realm of family business. Because, I think that there's an argument to be had that within our family businesses, many of us, whether you're generation 1 or generation 5 and you're leading an organization, you want to create opportunities to be more free. I mean, that's part of the core values of this show with love, legacy, and lifestyle. Every single one of those. Within love, you have freedom. Within legacy, you want to build in freedom. Within lifestyle, you want to have freedom of choice and everything. But there's also this sense, too, within a family business that can be confining, can it? I mean, if you've ever been on the fringes of a family business or been in a next gen or what have you, and you see that there's this family business there, that there can be a sense of obligation. There can be a sense that there's limited freedom within that space. And so there's a little bit of both where both sides of that coin can be flipped, so to speak. And recently I did an episode, and you can go back and listen to this one with Jenny Dinnan and Katie Rucker, who are the founders of the Next Gen Collaborative, and they're also a second generation family business in and of themselves. And I had a really, really great conversation with them. It was really, really wonderful what we got into, but we started talking about the idea of how we think about family businesses going forward and what they represent. Talking a lot about the idea of what it means to build a family enterprise that creates more freedom. And that got me thinking a lot more about this. Now, freedom has always been something of a value of mine, and not just in the previous sense of what we're talking about with Braveheart and all this kind of stuff and all of this. I mean, but more of just like what does freedom mean? The freedom to be ourselves, the freedom to build something to free. There's almost a feeling of abundance when you think of that word, right? Like the feeling of abundance versus scarcity. And so the first thing about that idea of building freedom into your family business is the idea of what mindset you might be bringing to the family business. Are you bringing an idea, a mindset of abundance or a mindset of scarcity? And this is where I think you can get into that unique juxtaposition of feeling either more free or more constrained by what that family business dynamic is in there. So I wonder, and I would really encourage you to reach out to me and share your thoughts on this and your unique experiences, because I don't know that there's a lot of information on this yet. But and again, these are concepts that I'm really kind of trying to formulate here. But I'm intrigued by this enough to put this episode out there and kind of share some of my thoughts on what it means and how you can build in the legacy of freedom in your organization, in your family business, in your families in general, so that you don't feel too constrained, so that you can build a sustainable foundation from which to grow on many, many generations down the line. So freedom with that mindset, talking about that mindset of abundance versus scarcity. When you think about your own family business, what does that look like within your own organization, within your own family? Does it feel more restricted? Does it feel like you are restricted from being more you, or being more living out the values that you represent? Or does it feel more expansive, more abundant, where you feel like there is an infinite growth model where everybody has an opportunity and everything like that? I think it merits us actually thinking about what freedom means in that organization, but in a family business or a family enterprise. And I look at it this way, and this is my definition. And of course, everybody can make their own definition of freedom. But here's one for you. I think that building a legacy of freedom, offers your generation, the generation running the business, to have the freedom to build the business in the direction that they feel most puts it in the best position to be sustainable for the long term. It gives them the freedom to lead, the freedom to make the decisions they need to be made without a fear of retribution, and a freedom to just embrace the evolution that naturally happens within a family business, the freedom to expand, the freedom to look at new sources of revenue, the freedom to be honest with themselves, the freedom to get the feedback, the freedom to give the feedback. And then we look at it for the next generation. It means that that it's almost inherent that freedom extends to the next generation, to the generation coming in, that they have those same freedoms, that you're building in this structure of creating that freedom for the longer term. And I think that there's this element of how do you build that structure in there without it running rampant to the extent that it goes in a variety of directions you don't want that business to go. It's almost like saying, like, yeah, Ford Motor Company started as a car company, and all of a sudden it's become a clothing company. Well, of course it didn't, because it's still that car company. There's a foundation, there's a structure to it. And this may sound counterintuitive, but this is another important part of freedom. Now, the first part, of course, was the mindset, the abundance versus the scarcity mindset. I believe that inherently a freedom-based mindset is an abundance mindset. But that second part is an internal integrity. And sometimes integrity can be a bit buzzwordy, can't it? You think of, like, a lot of businesses out there make a core value. We have our value of integrity, and we do what we say what we do, and that's the way it is. And you look under the hood, and it may be just more of a marketing term than anything. But let's look at what integrity really is. Integrity, I believe, is really the foundation. It's the structure. It's the bones that make it so that you have some kind of purchase or some kind of organization around what you're trying to build. So there's this integrity of knowing that, like, you have a set of core values, and you live those core values to a major degree. There's a sense of honesty. There's a sense of communication where there is a culture of honesty. You think of the house or a house that you live in, or a building that you're in. The building that I'm in here, thank God it's not falling down on top of me because it's got strong bones. I don't have to worry about that. I never worry about this house falling down on me because I'm confident in its integrity. That's the way the business should be. And the reason that that's a bit counterintuitive is because when you think of integrity, when you think of the foundation, when you think of structure, that doesn't sound like freedom, does it? But I'm reminded of what Jocko Willink had said, he's a famous Navy SEAL who has notoriously done talks that are very Navy SEAL-esque, and he's very I think he's talked about extreme leadership and things like that. He's got some great books, but one of the phrases that he said that sticks with me, and is a very important thing that he said, is that discipline equals freedom. Discipline equals freedom. Now think about that for a moment. Discipline. Discipline sounds like a bad word a lot of times, right? But I think anybody listening to this, I mean, I'm going to give everybody the benefit of the doubt. If you're a leader, you know that discipline is inherently a good thing. Having the discipline to run your company or run your life and or live by a set of foundational rules or structure or things like that is very important, and it leads to greater freedom. Now imagine a world without discipline. Imagine a world or a business where you didn't have any discipline, where everything goes, where you had absolute, and I'm not even going to call it freedom, I'm going to call it anarchy, to go out and do whatever you want to do, like anything. I'm going to go in this direction and make a clothesline while cousin George is going to go out and start a brewery, or this person's going to go do this with his own set of values or her own set of values, and all of that, and it just becomes a mess. There's no order, there's no structure to it, and there's no freedom within that. Without the discipline, you have no freedom, because you are almost under the tyranny of so much choice that nothing gets done, nothing gets decided. You and your partners, however many there may be, will never agree on anything. That's why discipline offers the opportunity to set the boundaries, set the framework, set the structure to allow freedom to exist within those boundaries. Talking about Ford Motor Company, I don't know exactly what their core values are, but I know that they build cars. And that's part of their boundaries, is that we're gonna provide this freedom within these boundaries, and at the very least, it's build cars, preferably ones that are reliable and are safe, and all that sort of thing. So, what is the discipline? What is the structure that you want around your business to create that freedom? Now, when you think about that, it's really a model of what that structure, what the systems are in your company. I personally, we have implemented EOS, the Entrepreneurial Operating System, in our company, and it worked great to provide that discipline. And if you've never heard of that, I would read the book Traction by Gino Wickman and learn a bit about that. It provides the necessary tools and the resources and how to really run your business in a very disciplined, structured manner, so that it feels like it's freedom. And that's where the freedom will come from. If you implement the right structure, the right set of rules, the right set of principles. I see a lot of times there are a lot of family businesses that ignore that step. They feel either a reluctance or a resistance to implementing these disciplined structures and systems, and they think because it is a constraining method, that it is something that will prevent them from having the freedom to do the things that they need to do or they want to do. But in reality, what they're depriving themselves of by not implementing the systems and the structure, and it can be EOS. Again, I think that's one of the most valuable systems that's out there. But it could be anything really. Any system that works for that. Not anything, but any system or structure that is effective. That provides the discipline so that you can be freedom within those set of boundaries. And if you analyze any successful, long-term, successful, sustainable business, they almost always, if not always, have a really, really well-defined system and structure. So you know exactly what they do. You know exactly what rules they apply to. But there's also a culture of freedom that exists within. I would love to know what examples you can come up with or what companies you could think of where that exists. But a lot of times they exist within the family businesses, where families are building family charters that completely lay out all of the rules for how employees will come into the business, how shares are divided, how succession plans happen, how those things happen, and then a specific system that is operated within the business to provide the optimal structure, how we hire and fire, what core values we have, what is our vision, all of those guiding principles that create the discipline and also provide the abundance mindset and the freedom to operate within those boundaries. And those are the companies that operate the most effectively. So that's what I would argue. And then there's another final piece that I'd like to present that may offer more freedom, because even within those set of rules, what that communication does within that discipline structure, if you're communicating that effectively across generations, then next generation, or those that are coming into the business, should know whether or not it's a right fit for them. They shouldn't be confounded by, like, well, is this going to be a good thing for me? Am I going to have the freedom to be me? Does this align with my values? No, that communication, that ongoing honesty and communication and integrity will uh, uh, help them to identify if it's a good fit for them. And of course, the certain set of rules that will help them to do that. But what if it's not a great fit for them? And what if they do still want to reap the benefits of having some sort of family entity and being a part of that family? Do they just have to completely ostracize themselves from anything family oriented, or anything like that? I don't necessarily think so. And this is where the conversation with Katie and Jenny like really took shape, and I really love this because they presented the idea late in that interview, and I really, really firmly agree with this. The idea that we can have a more expansive view of what family business and what family business looks like. That instead of thinking about it as this one isolated asset, the singular asset that is our family business, whatever that may be, over many generations, that instead we think of it as more of a family enterprise, or even this microeconomy for the family. That what if we're building an economic engine, this economic engine for the family that can drive new ideas, new opportunities, new directions, and that comes not just having one singular business, but maybe a business that contains businesses. What if we think about our family businesses over the course of many generations in a different way? That instead of thinking of it as this static concept that is directly tied to the founder vision, which of course is important, but instead of looking backward and keeping that foundation here, that we keep it looking forward. Well, then we can more expansively view what our family enterprises look like. Maybe it looks like a financial instrument that sits at the top, that's run by a set of trustees, where new family members who are coming in not only maybe want to work for one of those family entities, but maybe they want to invest in their own new business idea. So they present that idea to the trustees and try to get financing for it, so that it's almost like a group of VCs or private equity that is internal, that can fund those opportunities for those people. And there's a certain set of rules or disciplines or structures around that, so that they can pursue what they want to pursue in that. And it builds an economic engine. And now there's another arm to that economic engine that builds another family business and other family businesses, so that it's expansive. And it doesn't just exist within this one bubble of this single family business that maybe people aren't interested in being, and maybe people don't, within the family, don't feel free to be themselves in. If a founder starts a clothing company or some kind of company that revolves around clothing, 4 generations down the line, maybe they're not as connected to the idea of clothing. Maybe some of them will be, but maybe others of them will want to go in a different direction, and they can build it out that way. And if you look at it from more of this enterprise model rather than that singular business model, then you can start to be more expansive, and you can actually start to experience more of that freedom within your family and within your organization, and you can start to create more abundance. And that is where generational wealth comes from. It's no longer a linear process of growing a single business, but it's more of an exponential process that adds wealth and value to an entire enterprise. Can you imagine what your family business may look like generations from now if you start thinking about it in that way, and you start thinking about that freedom? One final element of freedom I will talk about that is relevant here is maybe the way that we think about exit strategy. A lot of times in family businesses, we only have one exit strategy, which is never exit. Always let this business go on for generations and generations. And this is where that enterprise model really, really starts to take off. because you think about a single business, and if you're dependent on that single business lasting for many, many generations, well, the chances get increasingly greater that over the course of many decades, that business will not be as sustainable. Now, I know that there are studies done that say the longer a business is in place, the more likely it is that it will stay in business. That is true, but it's also likely that that there are diminishing returns, that the value to the investors or to the owners or to the family begins to decrease over time if it's just that single entity. So it gets harder. But what if you think about it in that more expansive view of the enterprise model? You start to think about it that way. So you can also start to think about the individual businesses and think about their exit strategies. Do you really want to stay in business for generations and generations down the line for that particular business? Yes, the enterprise does. The singular business, maybe you could sell it. Maybe you can sell part of it. Maybe you can divest in part of it to get funding for different projects. Maybe you can change its course. Maybe you can just close its doors. That there's really no wrong answer to that, and there's no shame in doing so. There's a lot of weight in trying to keep a singular business entity going for the long term, and there's a lot of nobility in that. You do want to keep those doors open. But if you think about it as an enterprise, you can start to think about those singular business units a little differently and not attach so much weight to the idea of those businesses staying relevant forever and tying the entire family welfare to that business. You can now have a sustainable institution, a microeconomy, so to speak, an enterprise that can lead you to greater freedom. That's what I think about building a legacy of freedom looks like. What is your mindset around your business? Is it a scarcity or an abundance mindset? What is the structure, the discipline that you're putting behind your business? What are the boundaries, the rails that you have on your business that will give you the opportunity to be absolutely free and feel free to build the lifestyle, the love, the legacy that you want within those boundaries? And are you looking at your business are you looking at your family as more of an enterprise rather than just a business? Are you looking at it as a microeconomy that could fund different projects and opportunities that can help all of the stakeholders find their freedom and what fits for them? And finally, what's your exit strategy for the individual businesses, if there is any? Are you constantly looking at those? And surrounded in all of this bubble of freedom is an open communication, an honesty, an integrity that exists that allows you to share openly, to be open, and to have a safe place to have the conversations around this so that you can build that freedom in. And I'll tell you, there's nothing more freeing than having the big, hard, difficult conversations openly in a caring and loving way. And that's what builds on that integrity. So I hope give you a little bit something to think about. Again, I would love to hear from you on this subject. I'm just wrapping here a little bit about some of the ideas that I've had and thoughts that I've had around this as I've talked to different people and learned new things and thought about freedom in my own life. I'd love to hear what your concepts of freedom are. So if you're interested in that or anything else, or you just want to reach out to me, Adam@fearlessfamilybusiness.com is where you can reach me. And I hope you enjoyed this episode. If you really liked it, make sure you subscribe, make sure you rate it, make sure you review it, and share it with a friend. Thanks for joining me today. Look forward to seeing you next time. Thanks for joining me on this episode of the Fearless Family Business Show. If you're enjoying this show, please thumbs up this episode and subscribe wherever that subscribe button is. And you'll get more family business education and insights in your inbox. And if this episode resonated with you, share it with a friend, a colleague, a spouse, your mom, your dad, a second cousin, whomever you think might benefit from hearing this show. And if you're in a family business and you've got a great story to share, contact me because I would love to see if you'd be a great fit for this show. I'd love to interview you. Or if you're struggling in your family business to find your unique identity or voice, or you need an injection of new life into your family business, I'd also love to hear from you. I'd love to learn more about you, and I'd love to see if I can help. Simply email me at adam@fearlessfamilybusiness.com, and we'll get you connected to the right place. Together, we can elevate the love, the legacy, and the lifestyle we all experience in our family businesses. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you next time.